America over English. Real Ethiopian, me no British, go tell them. Grrrma wheat, etegremenen. Hamarina kwanka fidel teach my children. Them teach me English, Amharic is my preference. When my heights and my black my reverence. About touching no, I best my ye nor. See me, ye kedes men gishti tinta. Before the best my ye in the one chin the ube me dear. Tihun ye let in jara chinin. Satin zare. Kai mok is sat. It's at. Lion voice. One voice. And the lion voice. Time for the lion and the lioness voices to be heard. Log in and don't log off. Lion voice. Queasy. One. Lion voice. I hit.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Rastafari.
Well, that is partially correct. So initially, there were some missionaries who came and established high schools, but they were mostly on the coast, right? In Cape Coast, in particular, in Accra, and places like that. But when Kwame Nkrumah came, he constructed within a short time 400 different high schools across the country. And he also intentionally made it so that he said, as Africans, we need to know ourselves. So if a high school is in like the Upper West region, that does not mean that you have to attend a high school in the Upper West region. You know, you go to another region, go there, learn of the people who are there, learn, get to know each other. So absolutely, that is what Kwame Nkrumah did intentionally. And it brought about a lot of national cohesion that Ghana stands to have benefited from to this day.
The year is 1892, and the land of Ethiopia has been experiencing 4 years of terrible famine and drought. They call it the Kikuken, or the evil days. At least 1/3 of the human population and 90% of the cattle have died. The hyenas have feasted on so many carcasses that they have become overweight and barely able to move. Just when the people could take no more of the evil days, a woman named Wasiro Yeshimabet is giving birth in a place called Ergersa Gora. This is her 9th attempt to bring forth new life. Her previous 8 attempts only resulted in death. Will this child live? Thankfully, a healthy baby boy is born. His first cries are drowned by thunder and lightning flashes across the night sky. The heavens open up and torrential rain starts to fall. Ethiopia's drought is over, and the baby boy is given the name Tafari, meaning one to be feared or respected. Lich Tafari's father, Ras Makonnen, is a very important man in 1892 Ethiopia. Although he is overjoyed at the birth of his newborn son, he cannot spend much time with him. Ras Makonnen is the governor of Harar and must get back to the famous walled city to deal with its affairs. Furthermore, he is the foreign minister of Ethiopia, and having traveled to different places in Europe, he is very aware of the material and military advances they have made and the looming threats they pose to his country. Ras Makonnen knows that the majority of Ethiopians have no idea what is coming, and that he has to work that much harder to secure the realm. Lich Tafari would grow up to become the legendary emperor, Haile Selassie I. To understand his journey, we must first understand the Ethiopia that he was inheriting, and what it was like when he was born in 1892. Get your copy of Kwesi Bansu's book, Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings, and increase your knowledge about the history, politics, and culture of Ethiopia in 1892, and how it connects to the rest of African and world history at the time. Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1 is available for purchase at www.bookmanexpress.pub. Please visit for more information.
Give thanks once again. I'm Kwadwo Oppong-Wadie, affectionately called Ras Wiro I, born in the beautiful and picturesque city, harbor city, port city of Tema in Ghana, West Africa. Tema is a city which sits on the Atlantic Ocean, and as a result, there's always influences from all over the world. It is a city that was constructed by our first president, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, from scratch. It is also the port city, so that's where all the ships dock and everything. So I was born there. I was also raised for the most part there. I went to school at Tema Parents Association School in Tema, initially doing my elementary education. Um, as as I went through the stages, I came, in my home, it was a really very rich, Prince-rich environment. So, I used to read a lot. I know you call yourself the reading rats, which,
Yes.
sometimes I have to say that, I thought all races were reading races, but I think I could be wrong, right? But
Should be. Should be.
it should be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So coming up in that kind of Prince-rich environment, I used to really read a lot. Like we had a World Book Encyclopedia. That was my thing. I used to read a lot. And then I also, later on used to read a lot Encyclopedia Britannica as a young person growing up. But in my home, there used to be visitors all the time because of my parents. And the visitors that used to come in also included chiefs, and the chiefs would come in and they would present their rituals, libation, and all the, African rituals and stuff like that. So this began to have an influence on me. But there was another thing that really had an influence on me as a young person coming up, because back then they used to propagate the negative idea that, Africans had no knowledge, right? That knowledge was a preserve of Europe. So as a young person growing up, I remember my father had planted some papaya trees in the backyard, and the papaya trees grew up to be male trees. Fortunately, my grandmother on my father's side was visiting. Now, my grandfather, my father's father, it was a very educated person, but my father's mother, she never went to school at all, and so the idea was that, oh, maybe people who don't go to school don't know anything, but that is a false conception, and that false conception was debunked for me at a very young age, when after my father planted these papaya trees and was complaining one day that all the trees are male. So my grandmother, I saw her go to the tree one day, when my father was at work, and literally I saw her performing some kind of operations on the tree, um, not knowing, she was actually grafting the tree based on indigenous knowledge. So within a short time, the tree had converted from being a male tree, all the trees, all the papaya trees, to female trees, and were now bearing fruit. So what that did for me was to affirm for me that yes, there is an African system of knowledge, right? There is a black knowledge. It's just being denied. So it made me begin to ask questions. What is the black person's knowledge? What's the black man's knowledge? And which later on would lead me to ask another question, which I'm going to come to in a little while. But so after that, I went to high school. And, in Ghana, most of the time, well, these days it's a little different, but, when I was coming up, when you go to high school, you go to boarding school and you stay there, right? So you get away from your parents' house and you go to boarding school, you stay there. So the first boarding school I went to was Okapman Secondary, which is in the mountains, just a little further up Ebri Mountains.
And I was told, stick up here, and I was told that was done by Kwame Nkrumah to mix the different tribes together and make the school together.
Well, that is partially correct. So initially there were some missionaries who came and established high schools, but they were mostly on the coast, right? In Cape Coast, in particular, in Accra, and places like that. But when Kwame Nkrumah came, he constructed within a short time 400 different high schools across the country. And he also intentionally made it so that he said, as Africans, we need to know ourselves. So if a high school is in like the Upper West region, that does not mean that you have to attend a high school in the Upper West region. You know, you go to another region, go there, learn of the people who are there, learn, get to know each other. So absolutely, that is what Kwame Nkrumah did intentionally, and it brought about a lot of national cohesion that Ghana stands to have benefited from to this day. So when I went to high school, the second high school I went to was Presec, which is right by the University of Ghana, on the way to the Ebru Mountain. So when I went there, there was a lot of Rastafari vibes in that school. It was like everywhere you go, you see red, gold, green, Lion of Judah, quotations everywhere.
Where does that come from in Ghana? Because that was one of the things in 2005 when I went to Ghana for the first time as a Ras. I was so surprised how like the culture was so strong there. You know, we were getting saluted by soldiers, police. You know, what I mean, it's like a whole energy around Rastafari. Where does that come from in Ghana culture?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that Rastafari has been in Ghana for a very long time. Indeed, if you look in the 1960 report of the brethren who came from Jamaica and toured 5 different African countries, including Ghana, where they met Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. When they came to Ghana at that time, there was Rastafari already in Ghana, and they met those Rastafari, right? So, that culture has been there. But it's also important to know that the kind of respect that Rastafari, garners in Ghana has been worked for, right? A lot of brethren have gone through a lot of things and have worked very hard to garner that level of respect from the people. So, like you said, in Ghana, anywhere you go, whether it's in the bank or at the police barrier, you know, everybody's hailing you, they're greeting you. You walk through certain ghettos and people at left and right shout to Selassie I, Rastafari. So it's been something that's been there from ever since. So when I went to Prosec, that was the vibe there. By then, also, I had, I was listening to a lot of reggae music and stuff like that. But when I went to Prosec, maybe I'll say when I was around 16 or so, that's when I began to really learn deep about Rastafari, and I started to study with the Ethiopian World Federation in Ghana. Now, the Ethiopian World Federation then was headed by a blessed elder, Big Dread, also known as Wodi Mikhael, who's recently become an ancestor. There was one brother, Hill Pupa Levi, who, really assisted in answering questions and giving I the teaching. So that we were there for a little while through the high school days, learning. And then later I studied with also the 12 tribes of Israel in Ghana. That's how I linked up with people like Bosco. Also big up Jael, who is one of the elders there. And then, afterwards, moved on from there as well and studied on my own. But at the same time, having come through high school, in those days, I was also reading a lot again, I used to go to, back then, the British Council. There was one British Council in Accra and one also in Kumasi. So when I came on holidays, I'll go to the British Council library, which is a world-class library. So they had a lot of books, but fortunately, they had a lot of books focused on Black people, and people just went there to study for their exams. But I went there to go dig in the books, and there were a lot of books by Basil Davidson. And, Basil Davidson is known for really going into African history of ancient, and also looking at how the Greeks viewed Africans and viewed Africa as the land of God or the land of the gods, right? And also looking at other authors such as Ali Mazrui, who from Kenya, who had some documentaries, he had some books. So at this time, I was really, the many authors. J.A. Rogers from Jamaica, right? G.K. Osei from Ghana. Was reading Reverend S.A. Means, The Missing Link in African History. Ishaka Musa Barashango, reading books by Jabon. So having come through all this, and then later on, I have to big up Mama Haile Selassie, who I saw on your
yes.
day. So I meet her and her family, and back then they were producing the books Jahog. Yes. So we began as family, and I contributed 2 articles to two of those volumes, in those series. There were 4 series, so out of the 4 series, 2 of them have 2 articles in them. I was like maybe 2021 or somewhere there. So after that, I went to the University of Ghana and continued my studies over there, which was also a great experience, because going to the University of Ghana again established a strong Rastafari presence, on the campus. And one thing that also aided in that was that at that time the president of Ghana was Jerry Rawlings, and he had begun a program of liberalizing the airwaves, because prior to that, Ghana had only the state broadcasting corporations. So when he liberalized the airwaves, the university was one of the first to have a radio station. And there was one brother who is now in Canada, and they had discovered some old equipment that was being used in like the 1950s and 1960s to train broadcasters, and they tested the equipment and found that the equipment worked. So they said, let's start a radio station. So he approached me and said, look, we need you. So I came on board, and we started the first non-governmental radio station, Radio Universe, which is still there to this day. So presenting on the radio as a reggae presenter, whilst studying in the university. So I mean, that's just
so stick a pin. The brethren I told you about, Kwadwo Oppong-Wadie, he's on the university radio.
Right, that's what I heard.
Tradition that the I has started. So
true.
Mighty. I go and make sure the I them connect, because
true.
That's a powerful. I didn't even know that I have that connection to the
True.
radio. I've been on that radio station,
Yes,
I've had my music played on that radio station, so that's a powerful connection there. So by the time you went to the university, you already had locks and everything, or you were?
Yes, indeed. So
how old were you when you put on your locks?
I was 20 years old.
Okay.
So like from between 16 all the way to like 19, I had already declared Rastafari, but because of the system in the school and stuff like that, we walked around. Like I remember I used to have a bag that I used to walk around with, which said strictly Rastafari, right? So we used to study, but by the time, as soon as man graduated from high school, I put on my locks. So when it came time to go to university, the idea was that we have to go to university as a lux person, right? Because we were thinking that if we do not do that at that time, then what will happen to our children when they come up and they want to go to the university? So fortunately for me, I applied to the University of Ghana, and they admitted me with no problems, no qualms about lux. They didn't give me any problem at all. They fully welcomed me to the campus, and it continued from there. So
were you one of the first with locks on University of Ghana campus?
One of, but not the first, because when I went there, there's a brethren, Rasma Wan, who was a year ahead of me. He was studying performing arts, who was there. I was studying geography and resource development, so more within the mainstream, if you want to call it that way. And then after that, we had brethren who also, came and became part of the Rastafari community in the University of Ghana.
Well, great is the Almighty, and greatly to be praised in the city of Haile Selassie I, the mountain of His holiness.
Yeah, from Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, the whole entire continent.
Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, from Accra to Addis Ababa.
Yes, it's beautiful continent, better control, mama.
Very beautiful.
From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile. From
I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I seen Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. We gonna use solar energy, use sanitation to build the ecology. We utilizing green technology. We hailing Haile Selassie first without apology. And then we build the youth them economy. We dismantle Babylon monopoly. We teach the youth them how to live properly. Tell them make sure them got the title fit them property.
yes, this beautiful continent, better control, mama. From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, I smile.
I love you, mama, your heart never harden. I wanna turn all your slums into garden. I wanna stop all of your youths from starving. I wanna stop all of your tribes from warring. So much to say, so many feelings. We both been hurt, we both need healing. Since the League of Nations you've been appealing. You stand up against them backdoor dealing. I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I seen Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. Then I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long in America. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw.
So be still, all enemies of Jah. Know that He is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the Lion Conqueror. And it was said of Ethiopia, the highest himself shall establish her. His Majesty was born there.
And I know that I love you so. There's no place that I'd rather go. Tired of walking through slush and snow. Repatriation, that's a must I know.